Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about Clue and its brand new Shout Factory 4K Blu-ray that just came out. So Clue originally was released in December of 1985. It's directed by Jonathan Lynn. It was co-written with him and John Landis. Yes, that John Landis. It was produced by Deborah Hill, and this is the second Deborah Hill movie that we're actually going to be talking about here on the channel in the last 3 days. This and The Dead Zone, she also produced that, besides also producing Halloween and a lot of other John Carpenter films. Also produced Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch, which is my favorite Halloween film. So Deborah Hill had her hands all over the 1980s, proving that she is one of the best producers, especially of genre films, because this is very much a dark comedy, a spoof movie of murder mystery movies, basing it on the Clue board game and using all those ridiculous names. And you also bring in some great comedic actors, great TV comedy actors like Martin Mull and Michael McKean, who are definitely most known for TV, whether it be on Laverne and Shirley or eventually on Roseanne. For both actors, they're most known for TV. And even Michael McKean, he's gotten a new claim to fame more recently with shows like Better Call Saul, really showing that he has those dramatic chops. But most people knew him back in the 80s for Laverne and Shirley and for This Is Spinal Tap. And then you bring in big name actors like Tim Curry, who just pops up in movies, steals the show, whether it be in this or in Home Alone 2.
I love you.
But really, he's the glue that holds this all together. As good as everybody else in this movie, and yes, we get Christopher Lloyd in this movie as well, and Eileen Brennan, both of which bring so much to the table. But actually, Christopher Lloyd, he's giving a more reserved performance than we're used to seeing him. This is the same year as Back to the Future, and these are very, very, very different characters. And the entire time in this movie, he's just very calm. He's got the pipe in his mouth the entire time. He's still very funny when you look at him, but I feel like a lot of other actors were given more to do. Like Tim Curry really is the glue. He is absolutely hysterical in this movie. He's got the most lines he has to deliver, and he has to deliver them at such a quick pace with such great energy. He has to be able to follow up somebody else's line with a quick joke to really go back at them, and a blink and you miss it type of joke.
Well, there is still some confusion as to whether or not there's anybody else in this house.
I told you there isn't.
There isn't any confusion, or there isn't anybody else?
Either. Or both.
Just give me a clear answer.
Certainly.
And he really is just awesome in this movie, perfectly cast in this film, and that's really what Tim Curry does. There's a reason why people still love Tim Curry to this very day, despite not acting in many, many, many years. But between this, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Home Alone 2, which for a lot of people around my age, that's the first place you saw him, but he steals that movie out from everybody else in that film, including Macaulay Culkin. And they all just got together for this murder mystery movie, and everybody just does a great job telling a very compelling, dark, dark, dark story, because these jokes are pretty damn dark. Think about it. We all show up to this mansion, we're all giving fake names because we don't want anyone to know who we are, but as it turns out, we're all trying to hide something. We're all being blackmailed by somebody. We all have some sort of connection that we don't even realize. And then as time goes on, all of a sudden, people start dying. And they start pointing fingers at each other. But it's just so ridiculous. They start piling up the dead bodies in one of the rooms. They just keep bringing more in as people die. They die in some of the most ridiculous ways. Like, these actors are all playing it straight, but they have to play it a little bit over-exaggerated, a little bit over the top. And it works perfectly for the comedic timing of this movie. Again, this is the kind of comedy we don't get that much anymore, where it's kind of where all the actors are delivering their lines very dry and very serious, but the things that they're doing are just so ridiculous that you just can't help but laugh out loud. And again, the mystery just starts to unravel, and it really does build up to 3 satisfying conclusions, because this movie does have 3 endings to it. Depending at the time in 1985, each theater was set a different ending. Some places were promoting which ending they had, whether it be A, B, or C. It eventually came to home video on VHS. They actually just started putting all 3 endings in it, edited it together with little title cards in between. And me personally, I didn't see the movie in theaters in 1985, so I didn't get to actually, I wasn't around in 1985, so I didn't actually get to experience it that way. The way I've always experienced this movie is with the 3 endings, and I always preferred ending C, the ending that apparently the one that we're supposed to see, the one that's the real ending. That's the ending I always preferred. They actually shot a 4th ending that is actually animated on a documentary, Who Done It, the Clue documentary that came out, I believe, last year. There was a 4th ending that they shot that nobody's ever seen except for the people who made the movie, and the world has never seen it. And you can't even watch it on this 4K Blu-ray because they just don't want anyone to see it. They said it didn't work at all, and that's pretty understandable. If it's that bad, we don't need to see it, but they do have it animated on that documentary. So nowadays, most people just watch all 3 of them together, and I think that's the way I always preferred to watch it. because I already know how all three endings are, and I don't really have a particular favorite except for the third ending. I think that's the one that stands above the other two, but I do like watching them in chronological order. I think that it kind of does add to this type of movie, which is just a very funny, almost spoof or satire movie of these type of murder mystery movies that I think it works perfectly just because of the way these actors are playing their roles. And it's very well shot. You know, it's kind of got that 18th and 19th century look to this house. This was all shot on sound stages at the Paramount lot, and they did a great job with the production design, whether it be all the costumes, the look of this film. It doesn't feel like a 1980s film, other than the fact that you know who all those actors are, and the comedic timing, because yes, this is a movie that kind of feels like a certain place in time. It really does feel like the 1950s. I think as far as production design goes, I really thought that they captured that very, very, very well. The score of this movie is very popular and famous as well, to the point that La La Land has re-released this. That's how much people like this movie, and I think the score fits very well in this movie. It almost has a horror tone to it, especially early in the movie. You know, we got the lightning on front of these big matte paintings of this mansion. It does feel scary. It does feel like people are driving to their death, and the score illustrates that perfectly. Again, not playing it off like a comedic score. That's what makes the comedy so well done in this movie. The whole movie, if you watch it, it kind of feels like it's very straight-laced and not as funny as it really is, but when you pay attention in multiple viewings, it just gets funnier and funnier and funnier. Not everyone liked this movie when it first came out. Both Siskel and Ebert kind of just wrote this off. I think they both gave it like 2 stars or 2.5 stars. They just thought that it just wasn't for them. It just wasn't their type of movie. They thought it was too silly and too ridiculous and too hard to believe. They didn't like how, you know, the endings were separated, and it's understandable. This movie has definitely developed a cult following. It was a box office bomb at the time. It didn't even recoup its money, but luckily for us, a lot of people have found this movie, appreciated it for what it is, and that is a great 1980s dark comedy film, and it's one I definitely can recommend you check out. Just know what kind of movie you're going into. You know, if you love murder mystery movies, this is definitely one of the best ones, but it's not a straight-laced one. It's much more of a comedic murder mystery movie, one that I personally absolutely love. And we're also here today to talk about its new Shout Factory 4K Blu-ray, and that's what we're going to do right now.
To break it down!
Well, here it is, releasing on December 12th, 2023. Shout and Scream Factory continuing, and they're spoiling us with December releases. We got Point Break, we got Clue, we got the Weird Al Yankovic story, we got The Dead Zone, we got JFK coming. We even had Rings originally announced for this month, and we also got The Man in the Iron Mask. We got so much coming from Shout and Scream Factory this month, getting everything out for Christmas. And Clue is one that I really hope that they wouldn't gloss over, because it is a very, very popular 1980s film. It has a big cult following. Last year they had a whodunit documentary, The Story of Clue, having plenty of interviews of people working on the film and what the film means to them. Unfortunately, that documentary is not included on this new 4K, which is understandable. It's not produced by the same people. Why would they ever put them together? Maybe down the line they would, but that unfortunately I think does kind of bring down the extras on this, which actually there weren't really too many extras on Clue anyway, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, because let's talk about the packaging. We got a really nice slipcover right here. You come underneath, you get the same artwork underneath. This is not reversible cover art. I would have appreciated that, but I understand why we didn't get it. You come inside, it's a 2-disc set. You get one 4K, one Blu-ray. So you get the film version and its newest scan on both the 4K and the Blu-ray. All your extras are going to be on that Blu-ray disc. And one thing that might be a little bit disappointing is you don't really have any choices of audio on here, and I was a little bit disappointed by this myself. You can't go in and change nothing. There's one audio track. It's an English DTS 2.0 mono track, which I would have really liked them to give us a 5.1 or at least a new mix, maybe some audio tracks in other languages for accessibility options, but unfortunately we did not get that here, so it's a little bit disappointing. The mono track is fine. It definitely isn't something that you have to turn up or down. Everything does come in pretty damn clear. But there are times where you would have been like, man, a movie like this, it would have been really fun to have them using the other channels, especially with like the thunder in certain scenes. It would have definitely worked really, really well. I mean, anytime you get rain and you have a good audio mix on it, usually they make great use of the other channels. Unfortunately, we just get a mono track on here, and that is a little bit disappointing. And like I said about the extras, we get a bunch of new interviews, never done before interviews, and I really did appreciate that, because like I said, there really weren't too many extras before this, but what really brings down the extras is that whodunit documentary, The Story of Clue, that came out last year, because that documentary is so well done that, not including any kind of looking back or retrospective or making of documentary on here, it just kind of it's just very noticeable, and it brings down, even though these interviews are very well done, it's just that's all we get, unfortunately, are these new 3 interviews. You don't get commentary tracks. You do have your choice to watch it with one of the alternate endings randomized, or you can watch it with all three endings. Me personally, I'm always going to watch it with all three endings. That's the way I came to the film, and that's the way I've always enjoyed it. Just knowing that they're all out there, it kind of takes away the suspense. But if you can defy your belief, definitely go for that. It's pretty cool that they give us the option. I just would have liked a lot more options on here. It does feel pretty bare bones, but if the visuals are good, then all can be forgiven. And you know what? These visuals are pretty damn good. It's the best this film has ever looked. You get Dolby Vision and HDR10. And the Dolby Vision, this is one of those times where I thought the Dolby Vision was a little bit better than the HDR10, especially when it came to brightness. If you're comparing the 1080p Blu-ray and the 4K in here, the 4K is definitely brighter when it comes to Dolby Vision. It's a little bit less brighter when you're just going into HDR10. So if you only have HDR10 available, it's not a huge difference, but it's definitely a little bit noticeable now with the Dolby Vision because it's just a little bit brighter. Now, this does retain the film grain throughout, but it's nothing that's going to overwhelm the scene. It's actually probably the perfect amount of film grain, if I'm being honest. And the visuals are definitely a huge step up. Is it perfect? No. In general, this movie's very flatly colored. Nothing is going to really pop. A lot of beiges, browns, grays. They're trying to go for that 1950s look for it. But whenever there is a certain color that can pop off the screen, it still does look like it's a little bit flat, retaining the look of this movie. So if you were looking for something that was going to make the colors like pop off the screen, when you compare this to the Dead Zone that I just watched, in the Dead Zone you can see the books in the background. They are a lot more enhanced now, a lot more vivid, and a lot more dynamic. So they'll pop out at you a little bit more, whereas in this 4K, that doesn't really happen. There's also certain scenes where the skin tones will look a little bit muddy. Not that much. I would say it's probably most notable in the first third of the film, but there is a shot in this movie with the one cop, and he's got the rain in the background coming through the windows, and I mean, it looked gorgeous. 10 out of 10 visuals in that moment, and you get a lot of those moments that look absolutely stunning, but throughout the entire 4K, it's just not one of those types of movies that, yes, the resolution increase is very noticeable, and that's very important. It's not the brightest looking film to begin with. They definitely enhanced it. It's definitely the definitive edition of this movie. It's just not a 4K Blu-ray as far as the visuals go that blew me away, but for a movie that never really blew me away visually, to get it enhanced to this level, it's definitely very well done. I could just see people being a little bit disappointed with this, especially if you're a huge fan of Clue. It's not something that like changes how you remember the way this movie was, which is a good thing, but it also could be a little bit of a bad thing because it's just not something that flies out at you. It's not something that's going to blow you away, but it's still very well done. And unfortunately, when it comes to the Clue 4K Blu-ray, nothing on here really blew me away. It's definitely the definitive edition of this. There's just previous versions of the Clue Blu-ray that have bad box art on it that I don't personally really love. I really love the box art on this, but it would have been nicer if we got like alternative cover art where you could reverse it, or, you know, maybe gave us a steelbook, because a lot of people do love Clue. This has a pretty big cult following, and it kind of feels like a secondhand Shout Factory release for the month. Just the fact that we only get those 3 new interviews. Yes, we didn't have anything before, and it's nice to have some sort of extras, but there's just not too much on here. The lack of any choice to any other audio option other than the mono track is disappointing, especially if we could have gotten a brand new audio track. That would have been nice. A nice DTS HD 5.1, a Dolby Atmos track I never expected. It probably doesn't necessarily need it, but it would have been nice to get a 5.1 at least on here. At least giving us some other language options for people who don't speak English. That would have been cool as well. So my biggest disappointment is in the audio. It's not bad audio. It's nothing that's mixed bad. It's nothing that's going to upset you in that sense. It's just I would have liked a little bit more options. That's really my only disappointment with that. That's the same thing with the extras. Now, the visual upgrade is big enough, but it's not enough to justify the price of this. I would say wait till, next October's Shocktober sale, unless you're a huge fan of Clue. If you're a huge fan of Clue and you want to upgrade that Blu-ray, it's probably worth it. But if you're not and you can wait for it, I'd say definitely wait for a sale. I would give this 4K Blu-ray a score of 1 to 10. I would give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Nothing that blew me away, but also nothing that's offensively bad. Just wait for the price to drop, and I don't think you'll be too disappointed. But it's also Monday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. So I'm going to kick it over there right now. That is correct. It's Monday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. So in Friday's video, I asked you guys 2 giveaway questions. All you had to do was answer one of those in the comment section below. As long as you did that, you came back to this video, I put your name on a magic wheel. I spun that bad boy 2 times. The 2 names it landed on, they get their choice of the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And before we do that giveaway, guys, just want to give you guys a little bit of news that kind of came up after I already got done filming Let's Talk Physical Media, and that is Walmart, starting in February, they are only going to be stocking their shelves with new releases every other week. So if you want a new release, you actually have to ask somebody there if they're willing to go get that for you. And apparently Target has already been doing this for a while, which does make sense. If you go into a Target, their electronics section is much, much smaller than it used to be. And forget it, if you're looking at the Blu-ray and 4K section, you're lucky if you get a half an aisle from that. And Best Buy and Walmart and all that stuff, they're shrinking and shrinking even more. Walmart by me only has an end cap and about 2 racks at the most. And that thing is never stocked when I go in. So they just really don't concentrate on in-store physical media anymore, unfortunately. And that is understandable. That's the way the world is going, especially for physical media collectors. It's becoming online only. So this isn't a surprise. It's just the process seems to be getting sped up. And I expect this to be like online only by 2025. But as long as we're still getting these brand new 4K Blu-rays, that's okay. I don't really go shopping in store that much anymore. I just feel like we've kind of lost the art of going in and browsing and appreciating the cover art and the artwork that is on these 4K Blu-rays and Blu-rays. And it's just going to be sad to lose that, where you're only going to get to see it in pictures, and then when you get it at home, you'll get to fully experience it, but you already have to pay for that. So there's just going to be no more browsing. But just wanted to pass that news along to you guys. That is from Lionel Jacobs, who got that from the Digital Bits and passed it along to me. Just wanted to pass that along to you guys. And I asked you guys this week, what was your favorite Western of all time, and what was your favorite 80s film of all time? And obviously answers were all over the place. The only answers for movies in the 80s that got doubled up were The Terminator, Batman 89, and Stand By Me, which are all great films. The Terminator, my favorite film of all time. Batman, my favorite superhero film of all time. Stand By Me is a classic Rob Reiner film. Westerns were all over the place. Everybody has different favorite Westerns. Only one person picked my favorite Western of all time, and that is 1992's Unforgiven. I felt like Westerns were building up to that Western with a man who was a gunslinger looking back on his past, filled with regret, but that's still the person he is. So Unforgiven is still my favorite Western of all time. But enough of me blabbering on. Let's spin this magic wheel and see who our 2 lucky winners are. First wheel spin coming up.
Whoa, taking the elevator, going up. Got a lot of ground to cover, and I'm in love with this good life. Can't give it up. Make it to the top, keep climbing. I wanna live it up. The good life. I'm coming up, I'm coming up.
Tiger Blue. All right, Tiger. I'm going to remove your name. Spin again.
Whoa, taking the elevator, going up. Got a lot of ground to cover, and I'm in love with this good life. Can't give it up. Make it to the top, keep climbing. I wanna live it up. The good life. I'm coming up, I'm coming up.
And Planet Bazar Productions. Congratulations to Tiger Blue and Planet Bazar Productions. This is a first win for both of you guys, so the best way to reach out to me is at my email address, letstalkentmt@gmail.com, or you can always DM me at Twitter/X, Instagram, or Facebook. Just let me know which of the digital codes you want, and as long as the other winner didn't take that code is all yours. And I want to thank everybody who entered this week's digital code giveaway. If you didn't win this week, don't worry about it. Come back to this Friday's video where we do this all over again. And I want to thank my 2 channel producers, Jason Martin and John Doe Juggalo, my 2 channel directors, Frank Rodriguez and Kevin Kruger. And if you guys want to join the ranks with them or even become a friend of the channel, look for our channel memberships in the description below. Join a tier that is best for you, but if you got no money to throw our way, that's no big deal at all. The best way to support this channel is just by simply liking the video, subscribing to the channel, getting out in those streets, and telling your friends about us. And then after you're done doing all that, just enjoy the rest of your day, guys. We'll be seeing you around.